This is art is the church of God the Creator. We say that with a smile, but we say it because we mean it on whatever level that is meaningful to you. And, we're not trying to be deliberately provocative with the G word, but we're not afraid of it either. Okay? So, we're looking at the philosophical, aesthetic, theological implications of artistic work. We're looking at art not as just, self-pleasuring entertainment, but as a serious activity, as a serious uncovering of self-existing beauty, of finding beauty that exists already in the cosmos, and making it perceivable to the senses through craft, through technique, and through the five senses, so visual art, using the techniques of visual artists, and musical art, sound art, using the techniques of sound art, the tactile, the olfactory, and so on. The five: sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. And the olfactory and the gustatory cuisine. And I just, as a shout out in terms of cuisine, I had an artistic experience of cuisine this week, and I mean this seriously without the slightest bit of humor or prevarication. I went to, I had the plat de moi, the meal of the month at Le Gratin here in New York, Daniel Boulud's Bouchon Lyonnais down by City Hall in the near the part of the Beekman Hotel, and I had the plat de moi, the Pithiviers de Voix, the I'm sorry, pardon my French, the quail Pithiviers. It was with foie gras. It was with a black truffle Madeira reduction. It was a work of art. It really, truly is. Daniel Boulud is an artist as much as a great concert pianist or a great painter. And I'm glad that he is rich and famous as a result, because he deserves every penny and more. There's no artist, there's no genuine artist on earth who is overpaid. There are overpaid people on Wall Street, there are overpaid people in government, but there's no such thing as an overpaid artist. Even the tiniest bit of beauty that is created by any art is more valuable than the more highly compensated members of society who need to redeem their wealth through active collaboration with artists. And we've discussed this before, but we'll come back to it again, that art is the redemption, it is the salvation of capital. Whatever social destruction, no matter even the most justly generated capital, is going to have some negative social consequences. So to counteract the negative social consequences of capital accumulation, the possessor of capital must co-create great art with living artists as a patron, not as a collector. Collecting is for the received opinion. That's for people who do not possess access to great capital. You can just Google who's the most famous artist, whatever, and invest in that. That doesn't require. But if you have the privilege of capital, you must put that into practice as an active patron, not as a collector. Collecting means nothing. It doesn't matter if the collection is worth billions of dollars. Collecting is of no value. Collecting does not show taste. Patronage, working with living artists in the atelier, in the studio, in the creation of great new works of art, which create social benefit, which have magnificence in the Renaissance sense. This is what those with money must do. Yes, and which is what no one in this generation is doing. We live in an age of tremendous social inequality. The greatest inequality gap since the 1890s. The robber barons of the 1890s, no matter how horrible their social impacts may have been, they at least repaid some of their debt to society by building libraries, university, museums, and stuff on. There's no one in this generation who's doing anything comparable. And until they do comparable works, they will remain pariahs who must be whose status must be eliminated peacefully through progressive taxation and the elimination of tax havens and the increase of estate taxes and so on. But hopefully there will be this dialogue can contribute to a more enlightened attitude among those who have the greatest privilege in our society. Now, today's topic, originally last week, we've been looking at the philosophical implications of Walt Whitman's work. And we read originally Song of Myself. Last week, I decided to dive into the most controversial heart of Whitman, which is Whitman's reflections on eroticism and human sexuality. And we read his Children of Adam. And most people seem to have no problem with Whitman as a transcendentalist in the sort of Emersonian or even Thoreauvian, sense. Although he was not, I cannot say that Whitman develops Thoreau's ideas especially. I mean, he doesn't. Whitman is an urban transcendentalist. He's not, he talks about nature, but not in the deep ecological sense of Thoreau, and he does not reflect upon civil disobedience in any way like Thoreau. I mean, Whitman is much closer. He's more much closer to Emerson. He's much more of an Emersonian. I mean, I really feel that Whitman's core philosophy is just a versification of Emerson. And Emerson expressed in his poetry already in verse, but he created a kind of Whitman created a kind of a psalter. By psalter I mean like a psalmody. He created a kind of a liturgy, and he goes beyond the conventional poetic forms as used by Emerson, as innovative as Emerson's were. My contention is that Whitman was trying to go beyond Emerson in creating not merely a civic religion, but an actual theology, a straight up a new deistic religion of democracy, freedom, and equality, and that the role of human sexuality is central to this. And this is where we get into trouble. Any discussion, Americans are uncomfortable with any discussion of sexuality. So if this discussion is making you uncomfortable, please tune out. Okay. But what we're going to do today is a live read along of the second cluster of poems that look at human sexuality. Last week we looked at Children of Adam, which was Whitman's reflection on what he called amativeness, which was sort of his 19th century phrenological term for heterosexuality, between the sort of natural sexual attraction between men and women. And today we're going to look at his Calamus poems from his final edition, 1892 edition of Leaves of Grass. And we're going to look at the theological implications. We're not reading this as gay lit. We're not reading this as Whitman talking about his gay experience as a gay man. I mean, that's fine. But though that was the original kernel of it. I mean, in the earlier editions of the 1850s, which were highly objected to by Emerson, it was essentially a type of a confessional attempt at a sonnet sequence, kind of like Shakespeare's sonnets. But all that proved was that Whitman was a great confessional poet, but a lousy sonneteer. He could not write a sonnet to save his life, And so his early attempts at writing sonnet-like 14-line poems and working with quatrains, volta, couplet, all that are like laughably bad. All right. So you can say that he turned his weakness into a virtue and moved into blank verse and finally into free. And he's also, he lacked, quite honestly, the control of flow, which is necessary for blank verse in the Shakespearean or Miltonic sense. So how did Whitman become a strong poet in Harold Bloom's sense? You know, it was by mastering the terra incognita of free verse. You know, by essentially being a co-creator of it, which was, you know, neither regular rhyme nor regular meter, but with many other internal parallelisms using anaphora, internal rhymes, assonance, consonants, using a whole panoply other than iambic pentameter or other, but also with a wide variety of metrical effects. That's his poetic, we can analyze that. But even beyond his great poetic achievement, what I want to say is that Whitman thought of himself as a theologian, as a monistic, deistic theologian, advocating for the oneness of humanity with humanity, the oneness of humanity with nature, the oneness of good and evil, the oneness of sexuality and spirituality. This is where we get into trouble, and this is where people, including myself, initially put up tremendous resistance to Whitman, and I want to go there. I want to go there today. So we're just going to read straight through, and so read along with me. I'll just read the titles of the Calamus poems. This is from the cluster Calamus, which, for those of you who aren't familiar, Calamus is a flower which Whitman chose for its resemblance to the phallus. So, you know, you might even call these the phallus poems. So these are the poems which deal specifically with male sexuality, male eroticism, and which manifested for Whitman as his personal, as his gayness, as his homosexuality. Embedded within these poems are poems that reflect his direct personal experience of, I guess, his infatuation or perhaps physical relationship with Peter Doyle. And that's fine, but that's just the kernel of it. And as I said, Shakespeare did a much better job of that with the sonnets. In April, we read through the sonnets. We're not looking at this. This is the great-grandfather, you can say, of confessional poetry, except that it fell upon deaf ears. I mean, these poems of what Whitman called adhesiveness, male comradeship, were simply taken as poems of friendship in the 19th century and were not understood in a LGBTQ context until quite recently. Yeah, I mean, they were just sort of kept as a sort of a secret, you know, among a subculture. So let's get into it. Okay, we'll start with the first poem, which acts as a preamble, In Paths Untrodden. We'll intersperse this with a little bit of commentary and just go straight through the whole thing. So please read along with me. Remember what we said about reading Whitman, one breath per line. Never take a breath in the middle of a line. So if it's a short line, short breath, big line, big breath, and if there's a line break between stanzas, then extra big breath, pause, you know, to sort of take a moment to think, because each stanza forms a coherent cluster of thoughts. Okay. In Paths Untrodden. In paths untrodden, in the growth by margins of pond waters, escaped from the life that exhibits itself, from all the standards hitherto published, from the pleasures, profits, conformities, which too long I was offered to feed my soul. Clear to me now, standards not yet published, clear to me that my soul, that the soul of the man I speak for rejoices in comrades, here by myself, away from the clank of the world, tallying and talk to hear by tongues aromatic, no longer abashed, for in this secluded spot I can respond as I would not dare elsewhere. Strong upon me the life that does not exhibit itself yet contains all the rest. Resolved to sing no songs today but those of manly attachment, projecting them along that substantial life, bequeathing hence types of athletic love. Afternoon, this delicious 9th month of my 41st year, I proceed for all who are or have been young men to tell the secret of my nights and days, to celebrate the need of comrades. All right, so that exists as an envoi, that exists as a, as a, just like the beginning of Baudelaire's Fleur de Mal, and he wrote this, and initially when he was 41, he continued to revise it the rest of his life. So he wrote this after Song of Myself. I mean, in other words, he took the sexual content of Song of Myself and decided to focus on that exclusively. He says here, resolve to sing no songs today but those of manly attachment, projecting them along that substantial life, bequeathing hence types of athletic love. Okay, so he's going to tell that, and he's saying this is substantial, it is athletic, right? And he says, I proceed for all who are or have been young men to tell the secret of my nights and days, to celebrate the need of comrades. So these poems are from a male-identified writer, 41, and he's speaking exclusively to a male audience, for all who are or who have been young men, and to tell the secret of my nights and days, to celebrate the need of comrades. All right? So he's announcing the beginning of confessional literature. This is, at least half a century before Robert Lowell. And it says, to celebrate the need of comrades. And of course, this was, what inspired the earlier generations of closeted gay men like Oscar Wilde and stuff like that to seek out Whitman as a mentor. But he calls it comrade. The need of comrades. So he has that military sort of framing concept, which obviously for Whitman is going back to the Greek ideal of military comrade love, and and then in the pedagogical sense to the ancient Greek pederasty in that sense. Okay, so let's move on. Scented herbage of my breast. Scented herbage of my breast, leaves from you I glean, I write, to be perused best afterwards, tomb leaves, body leaves growing up above me, above death, perennial roots, tall leaves, oh, the winter shall not freeze you, delicate leaves. Every year shall you bloom again, out from where you retired, you shall emerge again. Oh, I do not know whether many passing by will discover you or inhale your faint odor, but I believe a few will. O slender leaves, O blossoms of my blood, I permit you to tell in your own way of the heart that is under you. Oh, I do not know what you mean there underneath yourselves. You are not happiness. You are often more bitter than I can bear. You burn and sting me. Yet you are beautiful to me, you faint, tinged roots, you make me think of death. Death is beautiful from you. What indeed is finally beautiful except death and love? Oh, I think it is not for life I am chanting here my chant of lovers. I think it must be for death, for how calm, how solemn it grows to ascend to the atmosphere of lovers. Death or life, I am then indifferent, my soul declines to prefer. I am not sure, but the high soul of lovers welcomes death most. Indeed, O death, I think now these leaves mean precisely the same as you mean. Grow up taller, sweet leaves, that I may see. Grow up out of my breast. Spring away from the concealed heart there. Do not fold yourself so in your pink-tinged roots, timid leaves. Do not remain down there so ashamed, herbage of my breast. Come, I am determined to unbear this broad breast of mine. I have long enough stifled and choked. Emblematic and capricious blades, I leave you. Now you serve me not. I will say what I have to say by itself. I will sound myself and comrades only. I will never again utter a call only to their call. I will raise with it immortal reverberations through the states. I will give an example to lovers to take permanent shape, and will through the states Through me shall the words be said to make death exhilarating. Give me your tone, therefore, O death, that I may accord with it. Give me yourself, for I see that you belong to me now above all, and are folded inseparably together. You, love and death are, nor will I allow you to balk me any more with what I was calling life. For now it is conveyed to me that you are the purports essential, that you hide in these shifting forms of life for reasons, and that they are mainly for you, that you, beyond them, come forth to remain the real reality, that behind the mask of materials you patiently wait, no matter how long, that you will one day perhaps take control of all, that you will perhaps dissipate this entire show of appearance, that maybe you are what it is all for, but it does not last so very long. But you will last very long. Okay, so in this poem, he's continuing his introductory calling upon the muse, just like Homer, the invocation, the beginning of the Iliad and so on. And and he's invoking when he says, of course, the states, he means the United States, and death he extols. Death is beautiful from you, he says. What indeed is finally beautiful except death and love? Of course, we need to connect that to the subsequent generation of transcendentalists, urban transcendentalism. I'm calling him an urban transcendentalist, and I'm thinking specifically of Wallace Stevens and then later Hart Crane, who are taking this precept, as Wallace Stevens says in Sunday Morning, death is the mother of beauty, right? So I think that comes directly from Whitman's invocation here in the second poem, Scented Herbage of My Breast. And he's connecting this to his idea of male love, again, speaking to an exclusively male-identified audience. All right. Now he speaks to the reader. So first he was speaking to himself, invoking the muse. Now he's addressing the reader. We're still in sort of the introductory section here. Whoever you are holding me now in hand. Okay. Whoever you are holding me now in hand, without one thing all will be useless. I give you fair warning before you attempt me further. I am not what you suppose, but far different. Who is he that would become my follower? Who would sign himself a candidate for my affections? The way is suspicious, the result uncertain, perhaps destructive. You would have to give up all else. I alone would expect to be your sole and exclusive standard. Your novitiate would even then be long and exhausting. The whole past theory of your life and all conformity to the lives around you would have to be abandoned. Therefore, release me now before troubling yourself any further. Let go your hand from my shoulders. Put me down and depart on your way, or else by stealth, in some wood or trial, or back of a rock in the open air, for in any roofed room of a house I emerge not, nor in company, and in libraries I lie as one dumb, a gawk, or unborn, or dead, but just possibly with you on a high hill, first watching lest any person for miles around approach unawares, or possibly with you sailing at sea, or on the bench of the sea, or some quiet island, here to put your lips upon mine, I permit you, with the comrade's long dwelling kiss, or the new husband's kiss, for I am the new husband, and I am the comrade. Or, if you will, thrusting me beneath your clothing, where I may feel the throbs of your heart, or rest upon your hip. Carry me when you go forth over land or sea, for thus merely touching you is enough, is best, and thus touching you would I silently sleep and be carried eternally. But these leaves conning you con at peril, for these leaves and me you will not understand. They will elude you at first, and still more afterward. I will certainly elude you. Even while you should think you had unquestionably caught me, behold! Already you see I have escaped from you. For it is not for what I have put into this that I have written this book, nor is it by reading it you will acquire it, nor do those know me best who admire me and vauntingly praise me, nor will the candidates for my love, unless at most a very few prove victorious, nor will my poems do good only, they will do just as much evil, perhaps more. For all is useless without that which you may guess at many times and not hit, that which I hinted at. Therefore, release me and depart on your way. Okay, so in this poem, he's creating an exclusive circle, and he's saying to leave him and stop reading him unless you're willing to go further in this, what he calls his novitiate, and to accept him as not merely as a poet, but as he says, as a comrade and lover and husband. And hence he uses the symbolic kiss. He's symbolically exchanging bodily fluids with the readers. I kiss you on the lips, or when you carry his book on his body, it's a symbolic sexual content. So this is the sort of the Rubicon, the line that he's drawing, that you must accept him not merely as a poet, you must accept him as a sexual teacher, as a symbolic sexual partner, since obviously he's, no longer alive. Okay. Let's see how he expands this to his larger version, as it is the central components of his urban transcendentalism, of American transcendentalism, of democracy, freedom, and equality. The next poem is For You, O Democracy. For you, O democracy, come, I will make the continent indissoluble. I will make the most splendid race the sun ever shone upon. I will make divine magnetic lands with the love of comrades, with the lifelong love of comrades. I will plant companionship thick as trees along all the rivers of America, and along the shores of the Great Lakes, and all over the prairies. I will make inseparable cities with their arms about each other's necks, by the love of comrades, by the manly love of comrades. For you, these from me, O democracy, to serve you, ma femme. For you, I am trilling these songs. Okay, so he uses the refrain here with the love of comrades, with the lifelong love of comrades, and he refers to democracy as his female muse, ma femme. Oh, democracy, to serve you, ma femme. So democracy here is taking on the role of a cosmic female beloved, as like the mother of God in this sense. But this is a purely circle of the male identified persona of the writer and of the readership. So this is exclusively a androcentric and an androcratic sequence of poems. Women are more than welcome to read it, but Whitman is not extending that circle to those identified as women. Okay. These I singing in spring. These I singing in spring collect for lovers. For who but I should understand lovers and all their sorrow and joy? And who but I should be the poet of comrades? Collecting I traverse the garden of the world, but soon I pass the gates, now along the pond side, now waiting in a little, fearing not the wet, now by the post and rail fences where the old stones thrown there, picked from the fields, have accumulated. Wildflowers and vines and weeds come up through the stones and partly cover them. Beyond these I pass, far, far in the forest, or sauntering later in summer before I think where I go, solitary, smelling the earthy smell, stopping now and then in the silence. Alone I had thought, yet soon a troop gathers around me. Some walk by my side, and some behind, and some embrace my arms or neck. They, the spirits of dear friends, dead or alive, thicker they come, a great crowd, and I in the middle, collecting, dispensing, singing, there I wander with them, plucking something for tokens, tossing toward whoever is near me. Here, lilac, with a branch of pine. Here, out of my pocket, some moss which I pulled off a live oak in Florida as it hung trailing down. Here, some pinks and laurel leaves and a handful of sage. And here, what I now draw from the water, waiting in the pond side. Oh, here I saw him that tenderly loves me and returns again, never to separate from me. And this, oh, this shall henceforth be token of comrades. This calamus root shall interchanged youths with each other. Let none render it back. And twigs of maple and bunch of wild orange and chestnut, and stems of currants and plum blows and the aromatic cedar. These I compassed around by a thick cloud of spirits, wandering point to or touch as I pass, or throw them loosely from me, indicating to each one what he shall have, giving something to each. But what I drew from the water by the pond side, that I reserve. I will give of it, but only to them that love as I myself am capable of loving. Okay, in this poem, he's electing himself to say what has never been said, what he calls the love of comrades, is, of male homoeroticism here, as the essential glue of democracy. Okay, let's go on next. Not heaving from my ribbed breast only. Okay. Not heaving from my ribbed breast only, not in sighs that night, enraged, dissatisfied with myself, not in those long-drawn, ill-suppressed sighs, not in many an oath and promise broken, not in my willful and savage soul's volition, not in the subtle nourishment of the air, not in this beating and pounding at my temples and wrists, not in the curious systole and diastole within which will one day cease, not in many a hungry wish told to the skies only, not in cries, laughter, defiances thrown from me when alone far in the wilds, not in husking pantings through clenched teeth, not in sounded, resounded words, chattering words, echoes, dead words, not in the murmurs of my dreams while I sleep, not the other murmurs of these incredible dreams of every day, nor in the limbs and senses of my body that take you and dismiss you continually. Not there, not in any of them. O adhesiveness, O pulse of my life, need that you exist and show yourself any more than in these songs. So there's that whole use of anaphora, not, all negation, and then the volta, the final, affirmation after all this negation. O adhesiveness, O pulse of my life, need that you exist and show yourself any more than in these songs. So again, adhesiveness is Whitman's term for male physical comradeship, which is expressible sexually. So male, intramale eroticism, which he calls the pulse of my life, right? And so, he's identifying. I mean, the Song of Myself persona is a bisexual persona, and he was expressing this sort of cosmic bisexuality in the children of Adam. But here in these poems, he's identifying exclusively as androcentric, purely, in modern terms, gay men. Okay. Next, of the terrible doubt of appearances. Of the terrible doubt of appearances, of the uncertainty after all, that we may be deluded, that may be reliance and hope, but are speculations after all. That may be identity beyond the grave is a beautiful fable only. May be the things I perceive, the animals, plants, men, hills, shining in flowing waters, the skies of day and night, colors, densities, forms, may be these are, as doubtless they are, only apparitions, and the real something has yet to be known. How often they dart out of themselves as if to confound me and mock me. How often I think neither I know nor any man knows aught of them, may be seeming to me what they are, as doubtless they indeed but seem, as from my present point of view, and might prove, as of course they would, not of what they appear, or not anyhow from entirely changed points of view. To me these and the like of these are curiously answered by my lovers, my dear friends. When he whom I love travels with me, or sits a long while holding me by the hand, when the subtle air, the impalpable, the sense that words and reason hold not, surround us and pervade us, then I am charged with untold and untellable wisdom. I am silent. I require nothing further. I cannot answer the question of appearances or that of identity beyond the grave. But I walk or sit indifferent. I am satisfied. He, a hold of my hand, has completely satisfied me. So again, this works from not from negation, but from an interrogative, uncertainty, maybe, the repetitions of maybe, uncertainty, and then the qualifiers, the parenthetical qualifiers, as doubtless they are, as in doubtless, as of course but it then ends with the affirmation, I am satisfied, he a hold of my hand has completely satisfied me. So he's using a similar rhetorical strategy in this poem, and he introduces a note of personal love and eroticism, for he a hold of my hand has completely satisfied me. Okay, next, the base of all metaphysics. And so here Whitman is further expounding the philosophical and theological dimensions of what he calls adhesiveness, comrade love, all right, gayness. And now, gentlemen, a word I give to remain in your memories and minds as base and finale too for all metaphysics. So too the students of the old professor at the close of his crowded course. Having studied the new and antique, the Greek and Germanic systems, Kant having studied and stated Fichte and Schelling and Hegel, and stated the lore of Plato Socrates greater than Plato, and greater than Socrates sought and stated Christ divine having studied long, I see reminiscent today those Greek and Germanic systems, see the philosophies all, Christian churches and tenets see, yet underneath Socrates clearly see, and underneath Christ the divine I see, the dear love of man for his comrade, the attraction of friend to friend, of the well-married husband and wife, of children and parents, of city for city and land for land. Okay, he's saying that underneath all philosophical systems, going, in other words, German idealism, Kant, Fichte, Schelling, Hegel, and then the Greek, Plato to Socrates, and then beyond that to Christ, who he's identifying sort of as the founder of all systems, so sort of as the nexus point between the Greek and the Germanic, and certainly the New Testament teachings of Christ are an example of a kind of Hellenized Judaism, certainly. A kind of a Neoplatonic, I would say, ultimately Neo-Pythagorean vision, right? He is saying that the foundation of all of this is male sexuality and homosexuality, homosociality, and that would still be a very controversial contention today. So discuss that among yourselves when he says, underneath Christ the divine I see the dear love of man for his comrade, the attraction of friend to friend. So he's labeling Christ as a gay man, as was other thinkers of the late night, Ernest Renan and others were saying. Okay, let's move on. Recorders ages hence. Recorders ages hence, come, I will take you down underneath this impassive exterior, I will tell you what to say of me. Publish my name and hang up my picture as that of the tenderest lover, the friend of the lover's portrait, of whom his friend, his lover, was fondest, who was not proud of his songs, but of the measureless ocean of love within him, and freely poured it forth, who often walked lonesome walks, thinking of his dear friends, his lovers, who, pensive away from the one he loved, often lay sleepless and dissatisfied at night, who knew too well the sick dread lest the one he loved might secretly be indifferent to him, whose happiest days were far away through the fields and woods, on hills, he and another wandering hand in hand, they twain apart from other men, who oft as he sauntered the streets curved with his arm the shoulder of his friend, while the arm of his friend rested upon him also. Next, when I heard at the close of day. When I heard at the close of day how my name had been received with plaudits in the capital, still it was not a happy night for me that followed, and else when I caroused, when my plans were accomplished, still I was not happy. But the day when I rose at dawn from the bed of perfect health, refreshed singing, inhaling the ripe breath of autumn, when I saw the full moon in the west grow pale and disappear in the morning light, when I wandered alone over the beach and undressing bathed, laughed with cool waters and saw the sun rise, and when I thought how my dear friend, my lover, was on his way coming, oh, then I was happy. Oh, then each breath tasted sweeter, and all that day my food nourished me more, and the beautiful day passed well, and the next came with equal joy, and with the next at evening came my friend. And that night, while all was still, I heard the waters roll slowly, continually up the shores. I heard the hissing rustle of the liquid in sands as directed to me, whispering to congratulate me. For the one I love most lay sleeping by me under the same cover in the cool night. In the stillness, in the autumn moonbeams, his face was inclined toward me, and his arm lay lightly around my breast. And that night I was happy. Okay, so this is a end-of-life poem. I mean, here he is in the 1890s as the revered good gray poet, of the Wordsworthian, Longfellow, Tennysonian model, right? And he's being revered in the capital as sort of as the national poet. But what he's saying is what is more important is his love life, which is still important to him in old age. Yes, his love life with his young lover. Okay. Next poem. Are you the new person drawn toward me? Are you the new person drawn toward me? To begin with, take warning. I am surely far different from what you suppose. Do you suppose you will find in me your ideal? Do you think it will be so easy to have me become your lover? Do you think the friendship of me would be unalloyed satisfaction? Do you think I am trusting and faithful? Do you see no further than this facade, this smooth and tolerant manner of me? Do you suppose yourself advancing on real ground towards a real heroic man? Have you no thought, O dreamer, that it may be all Maya, illusion? Okay, again, there's this warning, but it's not a warning to the reader. This is a warning specifically to the lover, and he's specifically warning that he will not be monogamous or faithful. He's disavowing a monogamous ideal. In this intra-male eroticism. This contrasts from what he was, the children of Adam, the Adam and Eve poems, which were more concerned with a redefinition of or a transvaluation of Milton's vision in Paradise Lost of Adam and Eve as the primordial monogamous married couple. Yeah. Okay. So I'm extending Harold Bloom's argument here. Whitman, as the strong poet, is challenging and is giving his misprision of Milton, who is also is also in agon, in conflict with Shakespeare, right? So in the Shakespeare sonnets and the Milton Paradise Lost, Whitman is trying to replace this with his own theological vision of sexuality. Yeah. Of course, the explicit theology is completely absent, and Shakespeare was a secular writer and completely central to Milton. And Whitman is taking them on both, yes. And but I would take this further than Bloom's analysis. Bloom says that Whitman is simply articulating the civic religion, the secular religion of America, whereas I really think Whitman is articulating an actual cultic religion, and the central sacrament of this cultic religion is male sexuality, adhesiveness, which he is claiming here is absolutely not only virtuous but actually essential to productive democracy, not a war that will not lead to civil war or not result in just the blind zero-sum exploitation of robber baron inequality. What do you think? Let's move on. Roots and leaves themselves alone. Roots and leaves themselves alone are these scents brought to men and women from the wild woods and pondside, breast sorrel and pinks of love, fingers that wind around tighter than vines, gushes from the throats of birds, hid in the foliage of trees as the sun is risen, breezes of land and love set from living shores to you on the living sea. To you, O sailors, frost-mellowed berries and third-month twigs offered fresh to young persons wandering out in the fields when the winter breaks up, love buds put before you and within you wherever you are, whoever you are, buds to be unfolded on the old terms. If you bring the warmth of the sun to them, they will open and bring form, color, perfume to you. If you become the aliment and the wet, they will become flowers, fruits, tall branches, and trees. Okay, next poem. Obviously, the nature symbolism of the fruits and the trees is meant to be understood sexually in that. Next poem. Not heat flames up and consumes. Okay. Not heat flames up and consumes, not sea waves hurry in and out, not the air delicious and dry, the air of ripe summer bears lightly along white down balls of myriads of seeds, wafted, sailing gracefully to drop where they may, not these, oh, none of these more than the flames of me, consuming, burning for his love, whom I love, oh, none more than I hurrying in and out. Does the tide hurry, seeking something and never give up? Oh, I, the same. Or now down bowls nor perfumes, nor the high rain-emitting clouds are borne through the open air, any more than my soul is borne through the open air, wafted in all directions. Oh, love, for friendship, for you. Okay, so now his romantic, erotic metaphor, oh, love, for friendship, for you, is the heat, the flames, the air, and as he's extending the nature metaphors of the previous poem. And so he's creating he's fleshing out his vision of romantic eroticism with a series of nature analogies, typical poetic trope. Okay, next poem, Trickle Drops. Trickle drops, my blue veins leaving, oh, drops of me, trickle slow drops, candid from me, falling drip, bleeding drops, from wounds made to free you whence you were prisoned, from my face, from my forehead and lips, from my breast, from within where I was concealed, press forth red drops, confession drops, stain every page, stain every song I sing, every word I say, bloody drops, let them know your scarlet heat, let them glisten, saturate them with yourself, all ashamed and wet, blow upon all I have written or I shall write, bleeding drops. Let it all be seen in your light, blushing drops. So here he's using the metaphor of the blood of the poet. He's sharing his blood, his intimacy with you, and of course by implication, the bodily fluids, the saliva of kiss, the blood, and so on. And okay, next poem, City of Orgies. City of orgies, walks and joys, city of whom I have lived and sung in your midst will one day make you illustrious. Not the pageants of you, not your shifting tableaus, your spectacles repay me, not the interminable rows of your houses, nor the ships at the wharves, nor the processions in the streets, nor the bright windows with goods in them, nor to converse with learned persons, or bear my share in the soiree or feast. Not those, but as I pass, O Manhattan, your frequent and swift flash of eyes offering me love, offering response to my own. These repay me. Lovers, continual lovers, only repay me. Okay, so this was his erotic vision of urban transcendentalism as focused specifically on his chosen city of Manhattan. Yeah, and City of Orgies. Take that as you will. Okay. Next poem. Behold this swarthy face. Behold the swarthy face, these gray eyes, this beard, the white wool unclipped upon my neck, my brown hands, and the silent manner of me without charm. Yet comes one in Manhattanese, and ever at parting kisses me lightly on the lips with robust love. And I on the crossing of the street or on the ship's deck give a kiss in return. We observe that salute of American comrades, land and sea. We are those two natural and nonchalant persons. So, for him, the salute of comrades is the exchange of public physical affection. And, okay. Next poem. I saw in Louisiana a live oak growing. I saw in Louisiana a live oak growing. All alone stood it, and the moss hung down from the branches. Without any companion it grew there, uttering joyous leaves of dark green. And its look, rude, unbending, lusty, made me think of myself. But I wondered how it could utter joyous leaves, standing alone, there without its friend near. For I knew I could not, and I broke off a twig with a certain number of leaves upon it, and twined around it a little moss, and brought it away, and I have placed it inside in my room, for it is not needed to remind me as of my own dear friends, for I believe lately I think of little else than of them. Yet it remains to me a curious token. It makes me think of manly love, for all that, and though the live oak glistens there in Louisiana solitary in a wide flat space, uttering joyous leaves all its life without a friend or lover near, I know very well I could not. I think this poem, I Saw in Louisiana a Live Oak Growing, is obviously the direct predecessor and the direct inspiration for Wallace Stevens' The Anecdote of the Jar. In Wallace Stevens, I set a jar in Tennessee and all around, so he places, in Wallace Stevens' poem, The Anecdote of the Jar, he places a jar in Tennessee, and that establishes a focal point from which he can see the landscape. And I think this is taken explicitly from Whitman's metaphor of the Louisiana live oak, that he uses this image from the southern U.S. and uses it as a metaphor for his eroticism. So it's very interesting to compare Whitman's eroticized geography and sort of ontological speculation with Stevens's, which is sort of deliberately abstracted and de-eroticized. But of course there is tremendous eroticism in Stevens, but it's generally through a secondary persona, hardly ever through the first person. So in that sense, Whitman is a confessional poet and Stevens is not. Stevens is a metaphysical romantic in the Wordsworthian sense. Yeah. Okay. Next, to a stranger. Passing stranger, you do not know how longingly I look upon you. You must be he I was seeking, or she I was seeking. It comes to me as of a dream. I have somewhere surely lived a joy with you. All is recalled as we flit by each other, fluid, affectionate, chaste, matured. As you grow up with me, were a boy with me or a girl with me, I ate with you and slept with you. Your body has become not yours only, nor left my body mine only. You give me the pleasure of your eyes, face, flesh as we pass. You take of my beard, breast, hands in return. I am not to speak to you. I am to think of you when I sit alone or wake at night alone. I am to wait. I do not doubt. I am to meet you again. I am to see to it that I do not lose you. All right, next poem, This Moment, Yearning and Thoughtful. This moment, yearning and thoughtful, sitting alone, it seems to me there are other men in other lands yearning and thoughtful. It seems to me I can look over and behold them in Germany, Italy, France, Spain, or far away, China, or in Russia or Japan, talking other dialects. And it seems to me, if I could know those men, I should become attached to them as I do men in my own lands. Oh, I know we should be brethren and lovers. I know I should be happy with them. Okay, this poem is interesting because in this poem, Whitman expands his specifically nationalistic U.S. vision of male adhesiveness, and he expands it to a universal vision. So he's moving his sort of gay Americanism to a gay male universalism. You know, he says in Germany, Italy, France, China, Russia, Japan, and for Whitman's overseas readers, this was inspiring. I mean, obviously there was a whole Whitman cult in England that flourished while Whitman was still alive in the 1880s and 1890s, I mean, that were part of the Oxford movement and continued well past Whitman's death into the 20th century. And not just in England, but throughout the world, but very strongly in England, yeah. I mean, perhaps Whitman's prosody is not well served in translation. I mean, it's a very English prosody, yeah, in terms of subjects, verbs, clauses, and all that. Okay, next poem. I hear it was charged against me. I hear it was charged against me that I sought to destroy institutions, but really I am neither for nor against institutions. What indeed do I have in common with them? Or what with the destruction of them? Only I will establish in Mannahatta and in every city of these states, inland and seaboard, and in the fields and woods, and above every little keel, little or large, that dents the water, without edifices or rules or trustees or any argument, the institution of the dear love of comrades. Okay, so here he's establishing his church of gay male love, his church of gay male sexuality and gay male love, and he's saying he will make Manhattan its world headquarters, and he will establish sort of satellite parishes in every city of the United States. Yeah. Next poem. The prairie grass dividing. The prairie grass dividing is special odor breathing. I demand of it the spiritual and corresponding. Demand the most copious and close companionship of men. Demand the blades to rise of words, acts, beings, those of the open atmosphere, coarse, sunlit, fresh, nutritious, those that go at their own gait, erect, stepping with freedom and command, leading and not following, those with the never-quelled audacity, those with sweet and lusty flesh clear of taint, those that look carelessly in the faces of presidents and governors as to say, who are you? Those of earth-born passion, simple, never constrained, never obedient, those of inland America. Next poem. When I peruse the conquered fame. When I peruse the conquered fame of heroes and the victories of mighty generals, I do not envy the generals, nor the president in his presidency, nor the rich in his great house. But when I hear of the brotherhood of lovers, how it was with them, how together through life, through dangers, odium unchanging, long and long, through youth and through middle and old age, how unfaltering, how affectionate and faithful they were, then I am pensive. I hastily walk away, filled with the bitterest envy. Next poem. We two boys together clinging, one the other never leaving, up and down the roads going, north and south excursions making, power enjoying, elbows stretching, fingers clutching, armed and fearless, eating, drinking, sleeping, loving, no law less than ourselves owning, sailing, soldiering, thieving, threatening, misers, menials, priests, alarming, air breathing, water drinking on the turf or the sea, beach, dancing, cities wrenching, ease scorning, statues mocking, feebleness chasing, fulfilling our foray. So, beautiful example of Whitman's sense of sprung rhythm, of course, his use of the gerund ing, clinging, leaving, making, clutching, loving, and then again the sort of the volta, fulfilling our foray, his use of alliteration in the final line, sort of creating a cadence there. Very, very beautiful example of his prosody and poetics. And of course, here he's looking at the political ramifications of adhesiveness. Now that he has proclaimed the institution of his gay male church, he's sort of saying how it would work, both not only in the coastal cities, but in the inland, the prairies, and on the governmental. And so now he's moving in the sense of manifest destiny westward to California. He began in Manhattan, and now he's moving to California. A promise to California. A promise to California, or inland to the great pastoral plains and on to Puget Sound in Oregon, sojourning east a while longer, soon I travel towards you to remain to teach robust American love. For I know very well that I and robust love belong among you, inland and along the western sea. For these states tend inland and toward the western sea, and I will also. Next poem. Here are the frailest leaves of me. Here the frailest leaves of me, and yet my strongest lasting. Here I shade and hide my thoughts, I myself do not expose them, and yet they expose me more than all my other poems. Okay, I think this poem is extremely important because it's only 3 lines. And this fragment, this 3-line fragment, is very nearly a haiku because he uses the nature image of the leaves, shade and hide, expose them, and he brings out the emotional component of this nature imagery. And he's saying it's completely exposed. They expose me more than all of my other poems. I mean, so I really think there is an absolutely direct line from this, the poetry of the dawn of the 1890s to the next generation of Ezra Pound's epic-making imagism, right, of the 1910s, like Station of the Metro. So I think probably Whitman was probably not aware of those first translations of Japanese haiku, but I think it's an extraordinary kind of a haiku-like expression here, this tercet, really quite extraordinary. Okay. Next poem. No labor-saving machine. No labor-saving machine nor discovery have I made, nor will I be able to leave behind me any wealthy bequest to found a hospital, a library, nor reminiscence of any deed of courage for America, nor literary success, nor intellect, nor book for the bookshelf, but a few carols vibrating through the air I leave for comrades and lovers. Okay, so he is not leaving wealth, he's not a robber baron, he's not a successful author. This is what he's leaving. Next poem, A Glimpse. A glimpse through an interstice sought of a crowd of workmen and drivers in a barroom around the stove late of a winter night, and I unremarked, seated in a corner, of a youth who loves me and whom I love, silently approaching and seating himself near, that he may hold me by the hand a long while amidst the noises of coming and going, of drinking and oath and smutty jest. There we two, content, happy in being together, speaking little, perhaps not a word. Next, A Leaf for Hand in Hand. A leaf for hand in hand, you natural persons, young and old, you on the Mississippi and all the branches and bayous of the Mississippi, you friendly boatmen and mechanics, you roughs, you twain, and all processions moving along the streets, I wish to infuse myself among you till I see it common for you to walk hand in hand. Okay, so he's proclaiming his constitutional homosexuality as natural, and of people who as homosexual men as natural persons, young and old, and he wants to liberate them to feel. He wants it to be common to see men walking hand in hand, and Earth, my likeness. Next poem. Earth, my likeness. Though you look so impassive, ample, and spheric there, I now suspect that is not all. I now suspect there is something fierce in you, eligible to burst forth. For an athlete is enamored of me, and I of him, but toward him is something fierce and terrible in me, eligible to burst forth. I dare not tell it in words, not even in these songs. Just a very powerful, erotic lyric. We're continuing. I dreamed in a dream. I dreamed in a dream I saw a city invincible to the attacks of the whole the rest of the earth. I dreamed this was the new city of friends. Nothing was greater there than the quality of robust love. It led the rest. It was seen every hour in the actions of the men of that city, and in all their looks and words. So that's a utopian vision of a homosexual society. Next, what think you I take my pen in hand? What think you I take my pen in hand to record the battleship, perfect modeled, majestic, that I saw pass the offing today under full sail, the splendors of the past day, or the splendor of the night that envelops me, or the vaunted glory and growth of the great city spread around me? No, but merely of two simple men. I saw it today on the pier in the midst of the crowd, parting the parting of dear friends. The one to remain hung on the other's neck and passionately kissed him, while the one to depart tightly pressed the one to remain in his arms. Next, to the east and to the west. To the east and to the west, to the man of the seaside state and of Pennsylvania, to the Canadian of the north, to the southerner I love, These with perfect trust to depict you as myself, the germs are in all men. I believe the main purport of these states is to found a superb friendship, exalté, previously unknown, because I perceive it waits, and has been always waiting, latent in all men. Next, sometimes with one I love. Sometimes with one I love, I fill myself with rage, for fear I effuse unreturned love. But now I think there is no unreturned love. The pay is uncertain one way or another. I loved a certain person ardently, and my love was not returned. Yet out of that I have written these songs. Next, to a Western boy. To a Western boy, many things to absorb I teach to help you become a love of mine. Yet if blood like mine circle not in your veins, if you be not silently selected by lovers and do not silently select lovers, of what use is it that you seek to become a love of mine? Okay, so he's sort of transmitting this, as was sort of communicated to me by Allen Ginsberg, the sort of so-called what Allen called the whispered transmission of Whitman to his male lovers. He's saying that it's not enough simply to have this relationship, that you must transmit it to others, that you must transmit the whispered transmission to a Western boy. Of what use is it, if you do not silently elect lovers, what use is it to become a love of mine? It's not enough to love him, you must love others. Okay. Next poem, Fast Anchored Eternal, O Love. Fast anchored eternal, O love, O woman I love, O bride, O wife, more resistless than I can tell, the thought of you, than separate as disembodied or another born. Ethereal, the last athletic reality, my consolation. I ascend, I float in the regions of your love, O man, O sharer of my roving life. Okay, so this is an expression of a metaphorical or symbolic bisexuality here. Making a kind of a guest appearance from Children of Adam here among the Calamus cluster. Next poem, Among the Multitude. Among the men and women, the multitude, I perceive one picking me out by secret and divine signs, acknowledging none else, not parent, wife, husband, brother, child, any nearer than I am. Some are baffled, but that one is not. That one knows me. Ah, lover and perfect equal, I meant that you should discover me so by faint indirections, and when I meet you, mean to discover you by the like in you. Next, of you whom I often and silently come. Of you whom I often and silently come, where you are, that I may be with you, as I walk by your side or sit near or remain in the same room with you. Little you know the subtle electric fire that is for your sake playing within me. Again, just a tercet, just a 3-line poem. Not a haiku, but an expressive tercet, a precursor to imagism, perhaps. And, okay, the next, that shadow my likeness. That shadow my likeness that goes to and fro, seeking a livelihood, chaffering. How often I find myself standing and looking at it where it flits. How often I question and doubt whether that is really me. But among my lovers and caroling the songs, oh, I never doubt whether that is really me. Next, Full of Life Now. Full of life now, compact, visible, I, 40 years old, the 83rd year of the States, to one a century hence, or any number of centuries hence. To you yet unborn, these seeking you. When you read these, I that was visible am become invisible. Now it is you, compact, visible, realizing my poems, seeking me, fancying how happy you were if I could be with you and become your comrade. Be it as if I were with you. Be not too certain, but I am now with you. Okay, of course, so this is his envoi, sort of, from beyond the grave. He's saying he's alive, but in the future, when he's dead, you will be carrying this on. And so that's the end. That's the end of the Calamus cluster. And Full of Life Now. I guess we'll draw the line here. And it's challenging. Whitman is making outrageous claims theologically, sexually, politically, and they were outrageous when he first conceived of them in the 1850s. They were outrageous at the end of his life, and they remain outrageous 100 years later, 150 years later even. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed reading it with me, and this will be the end of this episode of Art is the Church of God the Creator. See you soon. This is it for Whitman. I think we'll be moving on either to Wallace Stevens or Beckett, or perhaps back to our discussions of the Montague Principle. We'll see how it goes this week. Have a great week. Be well, be healthy, and happy Thanksgiving.